Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and probably one of the last nice fall days here. You know, not a gust of wind, not a cloud in the sky, sun's out, and we have a 1985 XJS that hasn't run for 30 years. We're gonna see if we can get it running. I have my son along here to help out, and let's see if we can get it going. We've been lucky before with these V12s, and we usually get them going. So let's have a look through the car. I haven't looked through anything. I just have a battery on charge inside, and let's see if we can get it up and running. So here it is. It's a 1985. It's been off the road for 30 years. It was taken off the road on the 1st of January, 1995. So that probably means it was last driven in 1994. The story I've heard is that it was a daily and driven, and then it was parked into the garage like a day before the previous owner was expecting to have a baby. And then the baby arrived, and the car's never been driven since, which I find very odd. I mean, I have small kids, 2 of them, and keep driving these cars anyways, but everyone's different. So it's a 5.3 V12, of course, 1985, and it's been sitting inside that whole time. So it's pretty well spared, or should be pretty well spared with rust, but we'll have a look. There's some on the outside here, if that's from before or not really sure. This isn't my car. It is a friend of the channel's car. So lent that for me to video to get it going, and yeah, depending on how well it goes, maybe we will actually get it running and driving, but we'll see. Let's check the mileage first. It is 70,794 kilometers. Keys are in it. It's Pioneer stereo, some extra switch there. All the wood is very, very nice in it. Dash is nice. The headliner, not so nice. Rear seats, really good. There's a Haynes manual back there, and that is part of the boot trim. Hi. Having fun being along. And yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Let us have a look in the back why that boot trim is removed, and then we'll have a look at the engine. Oh, are you helping? Thanks. Yeah, good job. So, yeah, I think they just removed some panels here. Maybe there was a running issue. Maybe they tried to get it started some years ago. You never know. Because up here you have the fuel pump and fuel management relays. And the fuel pump sits under here. Fuel's going to be bad after all these years. But if we're lucky, the pump will come to life, and we can use that to pump out the old fuel before we add new stuff. Don't have any fuel at home. Wasn't really planning on doing this today. But if we're able to pump out all the old fuel and everything, great. Then we'll go pick up some fuel. Before it was parked in there, it definitely sat under a tree. All of this is probably 30 plus years old, but completely dry. So we'll make sure to clean all that out as well. It's going to go in storage, this car. Once it runs, it will be inside, because otherwise that will rot out. Let's do a sniff test here. I've smelt worse, so not too bad. And, well, bonnet's already popped. That's good. So that makes life easier to make none of the cables or anything are snapped, and we can lubricate everything. This might be a two-hand job. Yeah, this is a two-hand job. Just a second. All right. Getting the sun casting some weird shadows in here, but it looks complete. It looks untouched, sort of like ran when parked. The struts are bad, so we need something to hold them up with. I think we'll just get a vice grip to put on the studs, or the struts. Looks nice and complete, doesn't look too rusty in here. Let me hold the bonnet with my head. Okay, that moves. Of course, this being a pretty early HE, it has the regular Lucas system. Pretty reliable, even when it sits. Doesn't usually go wrong. If it does, I have a couple of those ignition boxes laying around. Let's see, does it have oil in it? Filming with one hand, holding the bonnet with your head, and doing stuff with the other is not the easiest. Oil in it, not too bad, up to the full mark. And yeah, I'll get something to hold the bonnet up, and then we can start having a look at certain things. Vice grip in place, holding that, and just pop the cap here, and you can see that there's coolant up there. Looks nice and green, so that's good. Going through everything else, it's always a worry that these engines usually don't seize up, these V12s. They're pretty good with that from setting. However, alternators, water pumps, all that can definitely, seize up. On most engines that have been sitting for a while, you want to remove the plugs and get some lubrication in the cylinders. However, V12 plugs, when they've been sitting this long, I've had some bad luck with getting them out. They will feel fine, and you feel like you're going to snap them. So, however, if you've warmed up the engine once, they'll come out really easily. So I think for now, we'll leave them in. We might get a few of them out later, but for now, we'll do that because judging by where it was pulled out of, even though it looks a little bit like this, there was heat on in there and everything, so hopefully we shouldn't have any moisture inside the cylinders. But let's pull the air filter boxes and we'll have a look. All right, wife and daughter are leaving on the little horse around now. Okay. Yeah, busy day on the farm. But let's do that and then have a look to make sure there's no mouse nests or anything in here. Air filters on both sides are actually really, really nice and clean. They're probably almost new before the car was put away. And looks really nice in there in the throttle body as well. So we'll put that back on. And then I think I want to get a battery in it and see if it will do anything. And in case the fuel pump goes, we'll disconnect the incoming fuel line over here and put that in a little bottle. That way, if that works, we don't pump any of that fuel into the injectors, and we can get fresh fuel in there a little bit later. If we see any fuel coming up out here, that will also be a good indication that someone tried to get this going, because after 30 years, it should be dry. Yeah, completely bone dry. And that is the perfect size just to get a hose on. And we'll run that outside the engine bay into a bottle and see if anything happens when we put a battery in and turn the key. Took the battery from my XJS and we'll just connect all this up loosely. I had it on charge now. I mean, it wasn't completely empty, but I had it on charge a bit while we were working now. So, okay. Just because things were removed here, I'm guessing the fuel pump doesn't work or the relay or something. But this is what I've did with the bottle. Just up that way. So you turn the key, the pump should prime for a couple seconds and hopefully get some fuel out. My son brought his toy tractor along and he could use some of my tools to play with that. Let's see. All right, first click is on. and see if we get some lights. Hopefully not a full tank of fuel. I hear a fuel pump. Let us have it sit here. Alternator light is on. They're always very faint on the XJSs. Oil pressure light is on. Fuel looks very, very empty. That would be excellent. I'm not really seeing the hose. Okay, the pump change note there. Let's go out and have a look if anything has come out so far. Oh, something looks black.
Black and blue.
That is really nasty fuel. Okay, I'm going to grab a jerry can, we'll empty this and we'll fill this again and see if it gets any cleaner. If not, we'll just get a big jerry can and we'll empty the whole fuel system. Let's do this a couple more times and see if it's still really dark. Yeah, that's still really, really bad. So what we're going to do is, for now, we'll disconnect the fuel pump relay so the fuel pump doesn't run. And I want to see if it turns over the engine. Go from there. If it does, I have just a jumper cable. We can jump the fuel pump relay into my bigger jerry can and empty the tank. And then put fresh stuff in there until it looks pretty decent coming out. Tank will probably have to come out and get cleaned anyways, but if we can, good enough to maybe fire it up, that is what we're looking for today. But yeah, this stuff is nasty. Fuel pump relay is disconnected, and let's see if it cranks. Yes, it would be great to go underneath, but it's in wet grass. And it's usually fine. I mean, the fuel pump worked. So we'll just do it really gently. If anything sounds weird or anything like that, we will stop. See, that's fine. Here, injectors as well. That's really good. So let us empty out the fuel system, and we'll do that by just bypassing, like I said, fuel pump relay, and then I guess check for spark, and then go for a little ride, pick up some fuel, get fresh fuel out of it, and maybe it fires up. Relay is bypassed, and fuel is flowing. It's not looking the greatest. But what I usually do to recycle this stuff is my lawnmower runs on anything, so I'll mix this with 50% fresh fuel, and it's good to go. Pump is starting to sound a little more labored. That is to be expected. So of course we will be replacing that and flushing fuel tank and all that once we get it running. But I think the fun part is, if it was ran when parked, doing as little as possible to get it running again, because honestly, I've had great experiences with these Jag V12s sitting for, I've had one sit for 44 years. And okay, I had to use an external fuel system and fix some electrics, but after that, fired up, ran, had oil pressure, and was overall a really good engine. So they are pretty robust, these things. But it depends where they sit. If they sit somewhere where, I'm just checking fuel here, where they don't get any coolant, just water in them, well, I guess this will go. But we live up here north, everyone's really good with coolant and changing it out. And if this was pretty freshly serviced after and then put away, then that's a really good sign. So see how much fuel is actually in this thing. Fuel tank red empty, but I think we have quite a bit in there actually. On to the second can. I have a feeling that that fuel gauge was not accurate because we got 20 liters in that jerry can. That's a 10-liter can, still going. Let me get another can in case we need it. But the good thing about doing it this way is the ignition is completely off. So we're not powering anything else, no ignition module, nothing like that will get warm. We're just simply running the fuel pump. Oh, that is a good way to empty these tanks. Pump just changed noise, which is good because I was running out of jerry cans. I had one more. So we had, let's calculate how full the tank was, but quite a lot of fuel. All right, let's turn off that pump. But the good news is the pump actually got quieter the more it ran. So that's good. And well, of course, no chunks or anything came out because it has to go for a fuel filter first. But actually went pretty well. So let's see. 20, 30, 40, about 50 liters. So these are, I think, 80 liters. So almost a full tank. I am going to get some new fuel. And then we'll flush that through with that bottle just till it comes out clear. And then we can hook it up. And I'm going to start running the fuel through the system so it gets down to the injectors. And usually what happens sometimes, if some injectors are stuck or things you can't really get them going, let them sit in fresh fuel until the next day. Then they'll usually come around on these. So we'll see what happens. My 3-year-old is still very excited by everything here. So that's good. Yeah, bring them along young. You can still work on cars when you have kids. That's no problem at all. Bring them along even when they're young. They can still work on cars even if you have kids. And I'm really against, plastic tools and things like that. However, an open-ended wrench. There's nothing sharp on it, nothing in the exact same thing that Dad uses. So it's a lot of fun to use on their toy tractors and things. So at least that's my tip. You want your kids to get into cars, next generation? Bring them along. Right now at a little over 3, he'll be entertained for like 3-4 hours, and we'll just have fun, and we'll have some refreshment. We'll have some fruit with us, some cookies and things, and he'll just have a lot of fun. So top tips to you guys who have kids: yes, you can continue working on cars. Don't do what this guy did and just park his car. Life doesn't end when you have kids. It just begins, and you bring them along on your fun activities anyways. I just poured in 10 liters of fresh stuff, and let us cycle the ignition a couple times. See if it starts coming out a little less dark. Hold it a couple more times. Still looks pretty dark from here. Alright, I'll continue until it's fresh. With the help of my daughter, we're going to crank over to see if we have spark. These are really reliable, so we probably will. Okay. Yeah, stop. We have really good spark. Thanks for your help. King Lee from the distributor is hooked back up. I also put the fuel pump relay back in, and everything's connected up in the engine bay again. So I want to put some fuel into the rail, make sure it's not leaking. And we're going to try and fire it up. I'm not expecting it to fire up because it's sitting so long. I usually need to do a couple small tricks with the injectors because many of them won't open. And one thing they do like is sitting in a bit of fresh fuel. I also have a couple of fuel additives in there, injector cleaners and things. So that should help out as well. And I mean, if we get this thing running, then the injectors need to get pulled apart and everything fixed like that. I can hear the fuel pressure regulator returning to the tank. So let's have a look for leaks before we try and fire it up. Give everything a good sniff. Let's see any leaks. We'll have a look over there where we had the fuel system apart. This is a good way also to see that these are pretty easy to empty the tanks out of in a controlled manner. let's say you have a big storm coming and you need some fuel for a generator or something. Well, if you have one of these parked for the winter, you might have 80 liters of fuel in it. So you don't have to go queuing at the fuel station. You can just empty another car. All right, everything else looks good. The engine turns over pretty well, so I haven't checked that everything is turning up here, but I think it is. The one thing I just want to check is that there is at least some fluid in the transmission, because otherwise you will burn it up. Yeah, really high on this. So the torque converter is drained. Good. We checked for coolant. It has oil. All right, let's try and fire it up, see what happens. All right, first start attempt in 30 years, most likely. Let's see how it goes. It's wanting to on a couple cylinders. We'll do this a couple times. If it doesn't work, we'll have to do my little injector trick. All right, I think the injector trick is the next thing, which you might have seen before, but basically we're going to get a 12-volt battery and we're going to disconnect the plugs for injectors, and we're going to manually trigger them if they're stuck. They usually run at like 3-4 volts, but you can trigger them really quickly with 12 volts, and that will usually get them going. So let's try that. I have a battery here and just 2 probes from a multimeter. So make sure you don't have a battery connected in the car when you do this. And you just, you see, first time nothing happens, and then gently probe it. Don't hold it on there for too long, you will burn it out. And you just go through. I've done that side or that bank, and now we're on to this one. That one's good. It is a little tight, but there we go. And that one as well. This side is the more tight and difficult side, but let's see. All right, that one is dead. But even the injector that won't go at first, maybe after some run time, some heat, some fuel, it could start to go. But if we just have to replace one injector after cleaning, that's not too bad. So 11 of them wanted to go. We should have it run on, maximum 11 cylinders, but depending on what the plugs are like. But let's get all that going and try and fire it up. Let's give it another shot. Now at least that we know we have some working injectors. Let's see. All right, we have life. Water pressure light went out. We have 0 gauges, no volts, nothing, so that explains the fuel gauge before. Will it idle? Yeah, barely. Not smoking or anything. Definitely not on a lot of cylinders, but the oil pressure light went out at least. We don't have any gauges. So we'll check. I don't remember if there's a separate fuse for those or not. So we could check that. But I'm gonna let it run for a minute or so, see what happens, see if it picks up, or maybe we'll gain a cylinder or so. Also start getting some heat back into everything. I could also help with injectors and everything. I think we just picked up a cylinder actually, so that's good. We'll double check that everything is turning and everything, but I'll bring you guys in for a closer look. Everything seems to be turning. Water pump and everything down there. This is an early car, so all the European, so it doesn't have any air pump or anything. That belt looks really, really weird, but yeah, everything's been stuck in one position. That makes sense. Charge light went out. Could actually grab that multimeter and see if we're charging. Fuel pump sounds terrible. Missing a couple cylinders. Missing a couple. So I think we're on 8, possibly. That's really better than nothing. We have tachometer, nothing else. Well, it's the next morning. A little abrupt end yesterday. A neighbor came by, was helping us out with his tractor, so kind of dropped everything, and by the time we were done, it was dark out. But let's hook the battery back up, see if we get it running again. Let it run for a little bit longer. See how many cylinders we have it on. Try and get it to go on all 12, and if we can, well, I think we're gonna check brakes, check, if we have a transmission, see if we can take it for a little drive. So let's connect up the battery, see if it fires up, and let it really warm up a little bit. Also check, we don't have any gauges, see if we can get that going. Lots of those small things, see if we can actually get it to drive again. Let's connect up the battery again. It's starting to be a little windy here, so I think we're supposed to get rains in the afternoon, so try and get this done. Still nothing on the sensor gauges, but we do have an oil pressure light, and that goes out as the least. Almost. I think I might need to put my foot in here. All right. All right, let's let that warm up for a little bit, and we'll check which cylinders are running and which are not. Revved it up a couple times, it's running better now. Putting meter on there, 14.09. So we're charging, that's good. And I think we're just down on one cylinder now. Probably that injector is not firing on that side. But we'll let it run a little bit. somebody smoking over there. Let's have a look. Just some oil burning off down here. The belts are all scary bad. They're getting changed, of course. But it's good that's charging. I forgot to check if there was any power steering fluid in it, but we could feel if we have power steering. A little low on fluid, but it's doing power steering stuff. That is good. While it warms up, might as well check. I mean, there is brake fluid in it. I'm not sure if I'd call that brake fluid, but there's something in there. Yeah. Crystallized, but it's still fluidy. So how about we vacuum suck that out of there, add some fresh stuff, see if we have a pedal. I mean, everything has to be gone through, but it's just fun to see if we can actually drive it. Smoking a little bit here and there, but that's to be expected. They always like to fill up with oil right down there. But so far, not too bad. You have one functioning gauge. Temperature gauge is coming up, so that's something at least. I'm going to switch it off, get some tools again, and we'll see if we can get it to run on all cylinders. Let's see which injectors click. That one's good. 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 Nothing. We're good. Got one in the air. B-Bank 5. I've done a couple more tricks with that injector. Can't get it going at the moment, and we're running out of good weather. It's going to start raining pretty soon, and I want to get this thing driving. I've also gone through the fuse box a bit, cleaned that up, and that wasn't the issue with the binnacle, because there is a fuse for the instruments. If I remove that, the temperature gauge stops working. So there's something else inside that binnacle, but I thought what we'll do is clean this out as best as we can and just put in some fresh stuff. I have checked, the brake pedal does move. I haven't like pushed it down, but just with my hand, I felt that it moves. We'll try and vacuum extract that. At least it's not all crystallized yet. At least also below here, there were no crystals, so that's good. We'll suck this out. I think we'll add a little bit of fresh fluid, suck it out again, and then go from there. Let's see if we have a brake pedal. It's not going to the floor, at least. Feels pretty good. It does run nice. Just wish I knew oil pressure and things, but the light goes out and it doesn't sound weird. Temperature gauge works, at least that's good. Let us try for drive. That in gear. All the brakes are binding at least. Oh no, not too bad. Reverse is good. We are on a little bit of an incline. All right. I think it's time to go for a little test drive. I'll let it sit here and idle for a bit while I put some tools away, and it's getting up to temperature. An XJS usually sits at the bottom of the end, and I felt both top hoses are getting a little warm to the touch, so I think things are going well. But let's just take it for a little bit of drive and see how it does. All right. Fuel pump is not the happiest, but the whole fuel system has to be gone through. And yes, it's not the greatest running on 11, but it'd be worse if it was spraying in fuel and not igniting it. So now it's just an empty cylinder. Not the greatest, but we're not going far. We are moving. And before we get out on the road here, don't worry, these are all private roads that live in the middle of nowhere. Haven't seen the speedo move yet. Speedo's moving. Oh, these tires are terrible. It shifted, and we're in third. And I think that's really all we're gonna do. It doesn't, feel too great, but this is a huge thing. First time in at least 30 years, it is running, driving, moving under its own power. Brakes are sort of working. I mean, they have to be gone through. They're sticking really bad. It's idling, 600 RPM in gear. It's not overheating. It's not smoking. Let's see. Well, that shifts. We got all 3 gears. Got reverse. I've checked with lights and things don't work. The fuse box is pretty corroded. But I've cleaned up part of it to try and get the binnacle working. But I'm really happy as a temperature gauge though. Let's see. Let's play around with some things in here. Heated rear screen clicked on. No hazards. No indicators. Interior lights work. Do we have windows? We do. Well, that's good. Should I try the climate control? Nothing coming to it. So yeah, I have to go through all the fuses and everything, or the owner does. But I mean, this isn't bad. And now, especially just that it's being stored now, that it moves under its own power, it uses its own fuel system and all that, that is a huge win. All right, something did happen with the climate control because I feel a little bit of heat coming through. That is a huge win that it moves under its own power. So I call that a massive success. And for those of you watching, you think, old Jags, they're terrible, they don't work. Well, I just want to ask, are there many other fuel-injected, pretty complicated 1980s cars that can sit for 30 plus years? And this isn't the first one. This is probably the 8th or 10th that I've woken up in this method. And then kind of work perfectly. Yeah, we're missing one cylinder, but I mean, that is an injector, and they usually come to life with that trick, but there's something wrong with it. I have a bunch of spares, and we can clean them, a flow test them for the owner if that's something he wants to do. I have no idea. I just agreed to store it for the winter, and I asked if I could use it for a video to get it going. And I mean, I don't think that's bad. So don't be afraid of these Jag V12s. They're fantastically strong engines. It's just, once they've been sitting for this long, yeah, they need every hose, all the fuel hoses, injectors gone through. They will need a fuel pump. You will need to clean out the fuel tank. Like on any car that's sat this long, you will need all the coolant hoses and everything and just flush everything through, all the fluids, transmission fluid, filter, everything. However, I think in total, we spent maybe 3.5 hours on this. So I'd say that's not bad. And that's also, having some fun, having my kids involved and everything. So not too bad for getting an old XJS going that's been sitting since the early to mid 90s. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. I am going to clean up just some of the dry leaves around it and put this thing into storage before the rains come. All right, until next time, I'm Adam. This is Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.